Welcome to the Invader Historical Foundation YouTube channel. In this video, we will discuss the different types of records that we use here at the IHF to determine the accuracy and validity of information. When conducting large-scale research like this, it is inevitable that some information will naturally contradict each other. Understanding how to reconcile those discrepancies is crucial to maintaining an accurate record. To that end, we have broken the records we use down into 4 tiers or classifications. The highest tier are primary records. These records should be considered as the most reliable and most accurate sources. That isn't to say that they won't have their errors as well, but on the whole, we put our trust in the data contained within these records above the others. Types of documents that make up this category are official documentation. They could be records from the FAA or from the Air Force that include individual aircraft record cards, loading lists, monthly summaries, missing aircrew reports, Federal Aviation Administration records, accident reports, personnel records, manufacturer's records, and handbooks or manuals. If the records within this tier contradict each other, we must investigate what is being claimed and determine how many records match what. For example, if there are 5 records that say one thing, and only 1 record says another, as a general rule, the 5 records are probably correct. Sometimes we have only 1 record of each type and we must make a decision based on limited facts. For example, the IARC records list certain planes as belonging to one production block, but the manufacturer's records list a plane as belonging to another. In this case, we can look at the type of record and the purpose of each. The IARC is mainly for tracking the location and status of inventory within the Air Force. The manufacturer's records, however, include the number of planes made in each of the production blocks, as well as exactly what changes were made to each production block. Based on this, it is reasonable to assume that the manufacturer's records regarding the production block values are correct, and any records that contradict this are in error. Another example of contradiction in data comes from the plane's performance data. The pilot's handbook gives one set of data on the plane's performance and flight characteristics. However, reports from NACA and reports from the 13th Bombardment Squadron contradict these records. The pilot's handbook is designed to give pilots guidelines and parameters on how to fly the plane, and it includes a safety margin that is built into the information provided. The information from NACA was specifically designed to test the actual limits of the plane, and the data from the 13th Bomb Squadron was the actual results of a test conducted in the field with actual planes designed to test the real range of the planes. Based on this, there is no surprise that either of these reports should be different from the pilot's handbook because they serve different purposes. The second tier is secondary records. Secondary records are personal accounts by pilots and crews who flew the Invaders. These could be in the forms of interviews, books, stories, and articles. These sources are great for filling in the gaps of primary information and painting a picture of what life flying the A-26 was like. The official stance of the IHF is that we treat these records as generally true, and take them at face value unless we have reason to believe otherwise. We note that some of these records may contain some minor inconsistencies due to perfectly honest reasons, such as the fact that a lot of these people are recalling events that occurred decades ago, and sometimes it's easy to forget or transpose tiny details because memory is not perfect. However, we generally take them at their word. There are some specific secondary sources that have been reported as tall tales by the squadrons themselves. We have noted these as such. They are stories that were told around the base by the aircrews that we cannot prove or deny in any way. They are fun and provide some insight and color into the lives of the crews, and to that end, they are perfect. But they are not necessarily claiming to be fact, and they do not include any specific data that is critical to our research. Secondary sources also include newspaper articles. The IHF does have a premium subscription to newspapers.com in order to pull more records. We treat these as secondary resources because reporters who publish these stories are relying on second-hand accounts. In general, we treat them as generally true as well. Thus far, we have only found one story published in the newspaper which was a direct quote from a pilot that was being passed off as a true account, but is completely and entirely disproved by primary sources and the laws of physics. We generally don't make it a point to call out stories related to us by veterans. The next classification is tertiary sources. These are primarily books and magazine articles written by people who were not present and who are compiling records of their own from primary and secondary sources. The problem with tertiary sources is that they are very difficult to confirm their claims. In many cases, the information is largely accurate. However, we have uncovered at least a couple of books that have a number of serious glaring errors. Because of that, all books, with the exception of biographies written by crew, are considered tertiary sources. The final classification is quaternary sources. These are largely rumors or stories that are passed around in online forums and on social media with little to no information that can prove or disprove them. These stories should be treated with large degree of skepticism. One final type of research document I haven't discussed yet is photographs. Photographs provide a wealth of information, but they can be very tricky. Photos exist as two different types of proof. The image itself is, for the most part, a primary source. We can't really refute what the image is presenting to us because it's captured right there in the photo for us to see. Where photos usually run into trouble is in the corresponding caption information. In at least one case, such as this photo of Fly By Night, the serial number on the sign beside the plane is wrong. The image shows us the number, but the IARC tells us that that's not the right number, and we learned what the correct number is. In other cases, the plane may be misidentified, like this plane, which was mistaken for Sugar Baby, even though it has the wrong letter and the wrong type of nose. As you can see, the research methodologies aren't infallible. We are certainly capable of making mistakes. However, by having a clear order of precedence for the trustworthiness of sources, we can do our best to get the information as accurate as possible while keeping the number of errors as low as we can. That's it for this video. I hope you learned more about our research process. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.